welcome. My name is Janet Zaretsky, and the topic that we're going to talk about is don't let your amygdala ruin your interview. So who knows what an amygdala is?
It's part of the brain. That's all I know.
It is. It's part of your brain. So let me kind of tell you how I got into this very, very briefly to kind of connect some dots. So I'm a business success coach. I've been coaching people in the business realm for over 20 years. But I'm a little older than that. So my first career was a registered nurse for 21 years. So I've studied all kinds of things, and then I ran into this amazing body of work called neuroscience of communication, and it married my two loves brilliantly. So out of that, I created this conversation. And really what that's about is fear. So I want to talk to you about how to not let your natural human reaction of fear ruin an interview. Now, here's the other caveat. What I'm about to tell you will pertain to all kinds of things in life. So, how many of you have ever gotten upset, angry, annoyed, disinterested, or bored when dealing with another person? Okay, good. I've never had somebody go, no, not that. That's all your amygdala. So here's what we know. We actually know this from functional MRI studies. When you are young, who knows how old, something happens where you experience something that is fear-based. There is a little point in your brain that actually gets triggered. And then the rest of your life, anytime that has a similar experience, that same part of your brain lights up. Now, it's more sophisticated now than when you were 2. You probably don't throw yourself on the floor. However, the physical sensations, the thoughts, although they're still more mature, are specific to that. So I want to talk to you about how that actually happens. And then I'm going to actually take you through something so that you can see it for yourself. By the time we're done, I'm going to give you I don't like to call it a tip, but maybe it's a little bit of a tip, a way to downplay that so that you don't let that fear take you out. And this is very interactive. Okay, so you're going to actually be playing with me. So here's the thing. When you react, when you're coming from fear, you give away your power. And it's not actually a passive thing. It's not like power goes away. You are giving it away. You know, when you get angry or upset, you are literally giving somebody else your power. And for some of us, well, let me give you an example. This won't be interview related, but it all connects. Imagine somebody comes into your office or comes up to you and says, "Why did you do this?" What's your response?
Defensive.
Defensive. What else? Probably defensive for you. Anybody get angry?
How did you want it done?
How did you want it done? Anyone else? Shrink back? Get quiet? So I have both. Personally, I might be, who do you think you are? And at the same time, depending on that, it might be, what did I do? So we often have all those. But regardless of that, you have no power in either situation. So when you respond, and I define response as a thoughtful response, you own your power. So this is called the conversational dashboard, because it kind of looks like an old-fashioned dashboard. But if you look over here in the right side, it talks about amygdala hijack, which the amygdala is what's called the reptilian brain. This is a very simplified, this is not a medical, but it's a simplified way of showing this. Low trust happens by the time you're midbrain, your conditional trust, and over here when you're in the prefrontal cortex, it's high trust. So what happens in an amygdala hijack, so I talked about that little area of your brain gets irritated. And then your brain floods with chemicals. Primarily epinephrine and cortisol. So when that happens, what happens to your brain is you have fight, flight, freeze, or appease others. That's the what did I do response. The other thing that happens is when your brain is flooded with those chemicals, you cannot connect to the higher functioning, the executive functioning of your brain. Your synapses are really slow then. So you can't think. So imagine yourself in an interview, afraid, answering a question. If your amygdala has gotten triggered, you're going to have a hard time answering that question. Now here's the thing. How many of you have interviewed and have left the interview going, oh, I can't believe I said that, or oh, I can't believe I didn't say that. Anybody have that experience? Now you know why. Now that's not very useful to know why if we don't go further, which we're going to, is how do I deal with that? On the other end of it is connected conversations. You have 0.7 seconds to connect with another human being. So it happens very, very fast. When you trigger the prefrontal cortex, you're triggering oxytocin and dopamine, which are both feel-good chemicals. Now the bad news is when you trigger fear, it takes 36 hours for your brain to totally get rid of those chemicals, but you can down-regulate them and up-regulate the good chemicals and then get out of what I call the stupid air and get into the thinking space. So we're going to do this all together. The next handout you have is called the ladder of conclusions. In other words, the fear reaction in an interview. So I'm going to have you do this with me. I said it's very interactive. You're going to do this in your mind as I take you through it. Now, one of the things I want you to know is this happens very fast. But we're going to slow it down for the purposes of you being able to see it happening. So I'm going to give you two scenarios, and you can choose whichever. You can use it in an interview if you had a recent experience in an interview that went badly, and you can think of it now. Or you can use it for any experience where you had an interaction and it didn't go well. Like when I said, why'd you do this? Or it doesn't have to be that severe. It could be something that you left and you were ruminating in your mind, you know, going over and over, not sleeping. It didn't go well. So can everybody identify one of those areas? Yes? Okay, so now walk with me. We're going to walk up the ladder. I'd like you to think about that. Think about what happened. And then allow yourself to be in the presence of, you had a physical sensation. You might have gotten hot, your heart started racing, you maybe even got short of breath, or you got red, or you got your shoulders tense. And then immediately after that, you had feelings, emotions, and then you ran up there and then you started having thoughts, oh my God, I screwed this up, why did I answer that this way? Beliefs, they all come in together. They're never going to hire me, and then a conclusion. I really screwed the pooch. And this happens like this. So are you with me? Okay, good. So over here we say assumptions, interpretations, and meaning. And the left side we say making stuff up. Here's the thing. We're making stuff up all the time. That's not a problem. The problem is that you interact with what you made up as if what you made up is real. So you're literally having a fight with a ghost of your own imagination. Now, in a conversation, that's two people doing the same thing. And then you wonder why it doesn't go well. So imagine yourself in an interview and you're scared, you really want this job, and you screw up an answer in your view, and you've decided they're never going to hire me. The rest of it is a foregone conclusion. So what I want to leave you with for sure today is tips. Something to do to downregulate. This handout, which was written by Dr. Judith Glaser, who I studied with, has a whole process. It's a long process, but I'm going to give you a very quick, easy way to deal with it whenever you have that fear response. You can do this. You can ask yourself, so imagine you have that fear response, it's very familiar to you, and you ask yourself what actually happened. This takes about a minute or less. In your head, what actually happened? Like an investigator, what are the facts? And then the next question is, what is the worst that could happen? And then the third thing is, can I survive that? And it, for whatever reason, I've used this a lot, it just calms you down. It's like, whatever, you screwed up. When it's in a disagreement, so imagine, I'm going to make up a situation, Joe comes into your office and says, do this report again. And you're like, well, I did it the way you said. He said, I don't care, do it again. And you've decided what? Joe's a jerk.
Yeah.
He's going to always blame me. I'm going to scapegoat. I'm going to leave this job. I don't need this. Might be like that. Instead, you ask yourself what actually happened. Joe came into my office. He handed me a report and said, do it again. I said, but I did it the way you wanted. And he said, I don't care, do it again. That's all that happened. So you added all kinds of things. So now what's the worst that could happen? You have to do a report again. Can you survive that? Absolutely. So that helps downregulate you. But then the next thing in that sort of situation, just get in a dialogue. Most of us live in a conversation inside our head as if it is real all the time, as if people can read our minds. So if you're in an interview and you make what you think is a mistake, what's the easiest thing you can do? Say it again.
Correct it.
Correct it. Say, you know what? I didn't mean that. Can we just go back here a minute? Because in conversation, you will lose yourself. That's the stupid area. You're in your head going, oh, I screwed that up. You don't even hear what's asked again. But if you take the moment to go, you know what? That isn't what I meant to say, it will reset things. So all conflict, including the conflict in your head, can be resolved in communication. So I'm going to give you, this is one tip, this is a general tip I want to give people, is when you're going to have a conversation to resolve a conflict, you want to set the tone. I call it creating the container. If you set the tone, you will direct the outcome of a conversation. So I don't have a glass, but can I borrow yours? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So you see this glass of water. Imagine you're really thirsty. That glass of water is really attractive, isn't it? But if I pour the water on the floor, that glass of water is no longer attractive. It's simply a mess. But most of us go into conversations and make a mess. What there is to do is say in 1 or 2 sentences what you intend to have happen or what you're committed to. And that sets the container and then directs it. So even when you sit down in an interview, you could say, my intention is to present to you whatever. You've got to create it in your own words, to present to you what I have to offer and to discover what your company has, where I can support your company. It literally will alter the direction in which you're going. So any questions?
What you intend to have happen, or say what you
Are committed to. 1 or 2 sentences. It will alter everything. By the way, it works in relationships, all kinds of relationships. Okay?
It's about communication.
It is all about communication. Everything is really about communication if you look at it. Questions? All right, you guys are so fast. Is there anybody who'd like to share anything that they could see for themselves that they can take away and utilize from today's conversation? Yes, please.
Well, I like what you just said, but are you literally meaning saying that to the person versus just thinking it in your head?
Yes, I am literally saying it to the person. And it will alter everything.
Cool.
Okay.
What's your purpose?
what I'm intending to have happen, so what I intend, or what I'm committed to. So when I have if it's a conversation, when I have a conversation, here's what I'd like to discuss, or here's what I'd like to have an outcome. If I'm going in an interview, it's like, sit down, own it, own your power. This is your opportunity. You got past the door where somebody looked at all the resumes and you're in there. This is your moment to shine. This is like The Voice, you know, the show The Voice. This is your 90 seconds to shine. So you better set it up. Set it up so you win and you're directing.
So when you do career coaching, do you find that this is usually a thing that prevents people from excelling?
I think confidence is the #1 thing that keeps people from getting jobs. Because I've seen people with resumes that are not as stellar as other people, but if you can project a confidence and a willingness to be there for the company as well as yourself, and you've got to deal with, there's a lot of background stuff you got to deal with. You got to deal with money concerns, you got to deal with all that. So when you're there, who's there is you as the fullest expression of who you are in your full power. Okay? Yeah.
This a little bit way off what you said. I wonder if I'm having a conversation with you and I'm a unique thinker and I think I'm saying blue and you hear green.
Yeah.
Did I say green?
You may not have said green, but here's the way I deal with that is always mirroring back and saying, what did you get out of what I said? Okay? Or when somebody's talking to me and I want to make sure, I'll say, this is what I think I heard. Is there anything I missed or anything I misinterpreted? So you're literally giving it back because rarely are we in the conversation, honestly. We're mostly in our responses to what's being said and we miss a lot. So it's a very good way to deal with that, especially in an interview.
Okay. I have to ask that question, did I answer the question, whatever, because I'm having a conversation and I realize oftentimes I'm off, you ask me this, and I run off this direction.
Yeah.
And I realize I don't think I'm asking the question, I'm communicating the wrong thing to the person.
Perfect.
So then I ask them, did I answer the question? And that tries to bring that back to really say blue when I...
Which would be great. And one of the things you might say is, I got really excited, and I may not have answered your question, which gives them a little bit more permission to go, that really wasn't what I wanted, but thank you for going off that way. Let me ask it a different way, okay? And the same thing you can do back with them. Does that help?
Sure.
Perfect. Yes?
Now, you
Evelyn?
mentioned the mental part of it and verbal
Yeah.
communication. How about the physical experience? How do you bring all that together where, just feel sick? Because sometimes a person can hear you say you may feel confident, but they are seeing your mind.
It's all connected. Okay, so it is, in my view, in the 20 years that I've been in this world coaching people, if your mindset is strong, your body will follow. So, if I get nervous, this is my thing. I've been taped a lot, so I've seen myself do this. I think I'm rubbing my hair gone, but we all have something. So if you start observing yourself and you start noticing, use those physical cues as a way to calm yourself. It's like, okay, what am I upset about? I might not get this job. What is the worst that can happen? I don't get this job. Can you survive it? Yes, because you already don't have that job. So it kind of makes it a little bit lighter. We add things to all kinds of communications, and that's the stuff that kills us. Okay? All right? Well, thank you very much.